The Discovery music. The uncharted sector, the bridge of the Galactic Federation vessel starbound. Seeker hummed with quiet efficiency. Commander Thrace Velian, a seasoned officer from the Andorian species, studied the sensor displays with his 4 amber eyes. His blue-gray skin reflected the soft glow of the control panels as his crew worked around him. They had been mapping this remote sector for 3 standard months, cataloging dead systems and cosmic debris. Nothing about this assignment suggested anything unusual would happen. Science officer Kieran, a slender Violex with crystalline skin that refracted light in rainbow patterns, suddenly stiffened at her station. Her long fingers moved rapidly across the holographic interface as she recalibrated her instruments. Commander Velian noticed the change in her posture immediately. In 20 years of deep space exploration, he had learned to recognize when his crew detected something significant. Commander Kieran said, her voice carrying an edge of uncertainty, I am detecting an energy signature that should not exist in this location. The readings are inconsistent with any natural phenomenon. Velian moved to her station with practiced grace despite his bulky frame. The Andorans were not known for their agility, but decades of shipboard life had taught him efficiency of movement. He examined the data streaming across Kieran's screens and felt his primary heart skip a beat. The energy signature was massive, far larger than anything their databases contained. How far away is this signature? Velian asked, keeping his voice calm despite his rising curiosity. Approximately 8 million km. Commander, the signature is stationary, which rules out a natural stellar object. Whatever is generating this energy is artificial and deliberately positioned in this location. The bridge crew had stopped their routine tasks to listen. First Officer Dan Nix, reptilian Sauron with scales that shifted from green to yellow when he experienced strong emotions, approached the command platform. His scales were already showing flecks of yellow, indicating his excitement at the discovery. Could it be a derelict from one of the ancient civilizations? Danik suggested the precursors were known to build massive structures that still generate power after millions of years. Valian considered this possibility. The precursors had vanished from the galaxy long before any current species had developed spaceflight. They left behind ruins and artifacts that still baffled Federation scientists. However, precursor energy signatures had a distinctive quantum resonance that this reading did not match. Negative. Kieran reported as if reading his thoughts. This energy signature uses technologies that are definitely not precursor in origin. The power generation methods appear to be based on matter-antimatter reactions, but the efficiency ratings exceed anything in Federation records by a factor of 10. The implications of this statement created a moment of stunned silence on the bridge. The Federation represented 47 different species, each contributing their knowledge and technology to the collective. The idea that something existed with capabilities so far beyond their own was both exciting and deeply troubling. Set course for the energy source. Valian ordered battle stations, but keep weapons powered down. Communications prepare first contact protocols. We may be about to encounter a new species. The Titan emerges. The starbound seeker approached the coordinates carefully, moving at 1/4 impulse speed. The Crew watched their sensors intently as the source of the energy signature gradually came into view. What they saw made even the most experienced officers draw back in shock. Floating in the void was a warship of impossible proportions. The vessel measured over 20 km in length, dwarfing even the largest Federation battle cruisers. Its hull was a dark metallic gray that seemed to absorb sensor beams rather than reflect them. The ship's design was angular and purposeful, with no wasted space or decorative elements. Every surface appeared optimized for function. By the founders, Danix whispered, his scales now fully yellow with alarm. That is not a ship, that is a mobile fortress. Weapons officer Court, a muscular cry, with tusks that gleamed white against his dark green skin, ran tactical scans of the massive vessel. His clawed hands moved across his controls with surprising delicacy for someone of his size and strength. The results of his scans made him grunt in disbelief. Commander, I count over 800 weapon ports. Along that hole, the armor plating appears to be composed of compressed neutronium alloys layered with energy-absorbing metamaterials. Our plasma cannons would not even scratch that surface. The energy shields surrounding the vessel are generating more power than our entire ship's reactor core. Valian felt his secondary heart begin racing, a biological response to stress that Andorans experienced in dangerous situations. This vessel was not just large, it was a demonstration of military technology that made the Federation's most advanced warships look primitive by comparison. Any life signs? He asked, hoping the vessel was merely a derelict despite the active power readings. Kieran shook her head. The hull is blocking our biological scanners. However, I am detecting what appear to be active computer systems throughout the vessel. There are hundreds of separate processing nodes operating in perfect synchronization. Whatever built this ship has computational capabilities far beyond our own. As if responding to their scans, the massive warship suddenly came to life. Running lights activated along its hull in sequences of blue and white thrusters that could move. Small moons fired in perfect coordination, rotating the vessel to face the starbound seeker directly. The movement was graceful despite the ship's enormous size, speaking to the incredible precision of its engineering. Commander, Communications Officer Pelix, a tall humanoid with pale purple skin and large black eyes, called out, urgently, we are being scanned. Their sensors are penetrating our shields as if they were not there. They are accessing our computer systems, our databases, our crew records. I cannot block them. Velian made a split-second decision. All hands stand down from battle stations. Lower shields and power down weapons. Whatever this vessel is, we cannot fight it. Our only option is peaceful contact. First words. The main view screen suddenly activated without any input from the crew. The image showed a chamber that was clearly a command bridge, but the design was unlike anything in Federation records. The lighting was bright but not harsh, and the technology visible in the background appeared both familiar and alien at the same time. Standing in the center of the screen was a bipedal figure that matched descriptions from ancient Federation surveys. The being was human, a species that had been catalogued 2 centuries ago as primitive and confined to their home system. Human wore a uniform of deep blue with silver insignia that suggested military rank. His features were sharp and alert, with dark eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they observed. Greetings, the human said, speaking in perfect Federation standard language. His pronunciation was flawless, suggesting extensive study of linguistics. I am Captain Marcus Chin of the Terran Navy. Vessel Valiant Guardian, you have entered what we consider Terran defensive space. Please state your identity and intentions. Valiant recovered from his shock quickly. Years of diplomatic training helped him maintain composure even in unprecedented situations. He stood before the view screen, aware that his entire crew was watching how he handled this moment. I am Commander Thrace Velian of the Galactic Federation exploration vessel Starbound Seeker. We are on a peaceful mapping mission in this sector. We detected your vessel's energy signature and approached to investigate. We had no knowledge that this region was claimed by any species. Captain Chen's expression remained neutral, but something in his eyes suggested amusement. Commander Velian, our records indicate that a Federation survey team visited Earth 200 standard years ago. At that time, your people cataloged humanity as technologically primitive and not yet capable of interstellar travel. I assume those records have not been updated. The statement sent waves of shock through the Federation bridge. The humans knew about the survey. They knew they had been observed and evaluated. Most disturbing of all, they spoke as if those assessments had been incorrect. Captain Shin Velian replied carefully, our records do indicate that humanity was in early stages of space exploration during that survey. However, it appears that assessment requires significant revision. Your vessel demonstrates capabilities that exceed current Federation technology by considerable margins. That is an accurate observation, Commander Shin said. His tone was professional but carried an undercurrent of something else, pride perhaps, or satisfaction at finally revealing what humanity had become. Humans have made substantial progress in the past 2 centuries. We have been preparing for the day when we would meet the Galactic Federation under more equal circumstances. Dan Nix leaned close to Velian and whispered urgently, Commander, he speaks as if they have been watching us just as we once watched them. How is that possible? Captain Chin apparently heard the whispered comment. Despite the distance and transmission lag, a slight smile crossed his features. First Officer Danix, humanity has indeed been observing the Galactic Federation for approximately 60 standard years. We detected your communications networks and used them to learn your languages, study your technologies, and understand your political structures. We wanted to be fully prepared when formal contact finally occurred. Velian felt a chill run through his body. The humans had not just developed advanced technology, they had strategically prepared for this encounter, gathering intelligence and building capabilities specifically designed to interact with the Federation. This level of planning spoke to remarkable foresight and patience, Captain Chin Velian said, choosing his words carefully. I believe this situation requires immediate communication with Federation High Command. Would you be willing to participate in formal diplomatic negotiations? Of course, Commander Shin replied. However, I should clarify something important about humanity's position. We are not seeking to join the Galactic Federation as a member species. We are proposing the establishment of diplomatic relations between the Federation and an independent Terran government. Humanity will engage with your civilization as equals, not as clients or subordinates. The statement hung in the air like a physical presence. In over 1,000 years of expansion, the Galactic Federation had never encountered a newly contacted species that demanded equal status. Very concept challenged fundamental assumptions about how first contact situations unfolded. Demonstration of power. Weapons officer Court suddenly called out a warning. Commander, I am detecting 3 Federation patrol ships approaching from the outer system. They are military vessels, likely responding to our presence in this sector. Valian felt his situation growing more complicated. The patrol ships would see the human vessel and likely interpret it as a threat. Federation military doctrine called for aggressive posturing. When faced with unknown warships, he needed to prevent a confrontation before someone made a terrible mistake. Communications. Contact those patrol ships immediately. Tell them to maintain distance and take no aggressive actions. Emphasize that we are engaged in first contact protocols. Already done, Commander, Captain Chin said calmly from the view screen. I have transmitted messages to your patrol ships in their encrypted military codes. I have informed them of the situation and requested that they maintain their current positions while we complete diplomatic discussions. Court stared at his displays in disbelief. The patrol ships are acknowledging the human captain's message. They are powering down weapons and holding position. How did he access our military encryption codes? Chen's smile widened slightly. As I mentioned, Commander, we have been studying your civilization for 60 years. We know your technologies, your protocols, and your security systems. We can communicate on any frequency you use and decrypt any code you employ. This is not meant as a threat, merely a demonstration that humanity is fully prepared to interact with the Galactic Federation on equal terms. The final part of the demonstration came when Kieran gasped at her science station. Commander, the human ship is generating a quantum field that extends throughout this entire system. I am detecting field effects around our vessel, around the patrol ships, even around the distant planets. This field appears to be mapping every object in the system simultaneously while also blocking all external transmissions. Quite correct, Science Officer Kieran Chin confirmed. The field you detect is one of our standard defensive measures. It allows us to maintain complete awareness of everything happening in this space while also preventing any information from leaving the system without our permission. Once our diplomatic discussions conclude satisfactorily, the field will be deactivated and normal communications will resume. Valian understood the message perfectly. The humans were not threatening violence, but they were demonstrating absolute control over the situation. They had the capability to detect, track, and potentially neutralize anything in the system they could intercept. Communications, decode messages, and coordinate with precision that the Federation could not match. Captain Chin, Valiant said, his voice steady. Despite the churning emotions he felt, I believe you have made your point. Humanity possesses capabilities that we did not anticipate. You have prepared for this moment with remarkable Thorough. What are your terms for establishing diplomatic relations? The human captain's expression became more serious. Commander, humanity seeks peaceful coexistence with the Galactic Federation. We have no territorial ambitions in Federation space, and we have no desire for conflict. However, we will maintain our independence and sovereignty. We will not submit to Federation authority, and we will not accept subordinate status in any form. We propose a mutual recognition treaty in which both our governments acknowledge each other as independent powers with equal standing. The bridge of the Starbound Seeker was silent as the crew processed this demand. Danik spoke quietly to Velian, his scales now showing patterns of blue and green, indicating deep thought. Commander, this changes everything. If we acknowledge them as equals, it sets a precedent that could affect all future first contact situations. Velian nodded slowly. The first officer was correct. This moment would define how the Galactic Federation interacted with humanity for centuries to come. More importantly, it would influence how the Federation approached all newly discovered species in the future. Captain Chin. Velian said, I do not have the authority to agree to such terms. However, I will transmit your proposal to Federation High Command with my strongest recommendation that they take your capabilities seriously. I believe that both our civilizations benefit more from cooperation than from conflict. A wise assessment, Commander Chin replied. We will maintain position here while you communicate with your superiors. I should mention that we already know the location of your high command facilities, the composition of your defense fleets, and the general structure of your government. This information was necessary for us to prepare appropriate diplomatic proposals. We share it now to demonstrate our transparency and good faith. As the view screen went dark, Velian turned to face his bridge crew. Every officer was staring at him, waiting for direction in a situation that no exploration vessel had ever encountered before. Send everything to Federation High Command, Velian ordered. Include all sensor readings, all communication logs, and my personal assessment that humanity represents the most significant development in galactic politics since the Federation was founded. Then we wait and hope that our leaders have the wisdom to recognize that the galaxy has changed forever. The Negotiation Emergency Council Assembly. The Grand Council Chamber on Federation Prime had witnessed many historic moments, but few as tense as this emergency session. The circular chamber stretched 50 m in diameter with tiered seating for representatives from all 47 member species. Holographic displays floated throughout the space showing data from Commander's encounter with the human warship. Chancellor Vidian to the elected leader of the Galactic Federation called the session to order. The Chancellor was a Luminar, a species known for their telepathic abilities and reputation for wise leadership. His tall, slender form seemed to glow with an inner light as he addressed the assembly. Members of the council, Vidian began, his telepathic voice resonating in the minds of all present. We face an unprecedented situation. A species we cataloged as primitive 2 centuries ago has revealed capabilities that exceed our own. We must decide how the Federation responds to this development. The holographic displays showed the valiant guardian from multiple angles. Its massive form dominated the visual Space, a reminder of the power that humanity now possessed. Detailed analysis scrolled alongside the images, highlighting technologies that Federation scientists could not fully explain. Admiral Corvus Wren, Supreme Commander of Federation Defense Forces, stood to address the Council. Admiral was a Kragnar-like weapons officer court, but much larger and scarred from decades of military service. His presence commanded immediate attention. I have reviewed all data from Commander Velian's encounter, Wren announced, his deep voice filling the chamber. The human warship demonstrated capabilities in 4 key areas that surpass our own technology. First, their power generation efficiency exceeds ours by factors we cannot explain. Second, their sensor systems penetrated our most advanced shields without difficulty. Third, their computational processing speed allows them to coordinate complex operations across entire star systems. Fourth, and most concerning, they have developed quantum field technology that we have only theorized about. Representative Solar One from the Violex delegation raised her crystalline hand. Admiral, could we not simply deploy our superior numbers? The Federation commands thousands of warships across hundreds of systems. Surely this one vessel, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against our entire fleet. Wren's expression darkened. Representative Wen, I would strongly advise against any military confrontation with humanity. Our tactical analysis suggests that their single warship could engage and defeat a fleet of 50 of our most advanced battle cruisers. Furthermore, if they have built one such vessel, they likely have built many more. We have no knowledge of their total military capabilities, their defensive installations, or their strategic reserves. This assessment sent ripples of concern through the council chamber. The Federation had never encountered military force that could challenge its dominance. The very foundation of galactic order relied on the assumption that the Federation's technological and numerical superiority guaranteed peace through strength. Economic advisor Thalen Moss, representing the Federation's commercial interests, approached the central podium. His species, the Trader Collective, had built vast wealth through careful economic planning and resource management. He carried data tablets displaying complex financial projections. Chancellor, I must point out the economic implications of this situation, Thorin said, his multiple arms gesturing at the holographic displays. If humanity possesses technology superior to our own, they could disrupt established trade patterns throughout Federation space. Their advanced manufacturing capabilities could produce goods more efficiently than our member worlds. Their transportation technologies could make our shipping networks obsolete. We must consider the economic ramifications of acknowledging them as equals. Chancellor Vidian considered all these perspectives carefully. The decision facing the Council would reshape galactic civilization. Accepting humanity as an equal power meant acknowledging that the Federation was no longer the sole dominant force in the galaxy. Rejecting their terms could lead to conflict with an enemy whose full capabilities remained unknown. The human captain mentioned that they have been observing us for 60 years. Vidian noted, I find this revelation particularly troubling. It suggests that they possess intelligence gathering capabilities we never detected. What else might they know about us that we do not know about them. Science Director Kala Zen, head of the Federation's research divisions, stood to respond. The elderly Andorian had dedicated his life to understanding technological development across species. His analysis carried significant weight in council deliberations. Chancellor, I have studied the data extensively, Callas said, his multiple eyes showing signs of fatigue. The humans demonstrate a technological development pattern that should not be possible. No species in our records has advanced this rapidly without external assistance, yet all evidence suggests they achieve this through their own efforts. I can only conclude that human cognitive capabilities, their ability to learn and innovate, exceeds the levels we have observed in any other species. This statement created uncomfortable silence. In the chamber, the Federation prided itself on the diversity and capabilities of its member species. The suggestion that humans might possess superior intellectual abilities challenged deeply held beliefs about the equality of all sentient life. The human proposition. Soft chime announced an incoming transmission. The Council's communication systems activated automatically, and Captain Marcus Chen's image appeared on the main display. Behind him, the bridge of the Valiant Guardian showed quiet activity as crew members attended to their duties. Chancellor Vidian Tour and members of the Galactic Federation Council, Chin, began with a respectful nod. I thank you for considering our diplomatic proposal. I understand that our emergence as an advanced civilization has created uncertainty and concern. I am here to address those concerns directly. Chancellor Vidian gestured for Chen to continue, curious about what the human captain would say when addressing the highest levels of Federation government. First, let me clarify humanity's intentions. Chen continued. We seek neither conquest nor conflict. Earth and our colonies contain all the resources we need for our civilization to thrive. We have no desire to expand into Federation territory or to challenge your authority in your own space. What we do seek is recognition as an independent power with sovereign rights to our own territories. Representative Corman from the Sauron delegation spoke up. Captain Chin, your words speak of peace, but your warship speaks of war. Why does a peaceful species build weapons of such devastating power? Chen's expression remained calm. Representative Corman, we built these capabilities because we learned an important lesson from studying galactic history. Every species that entered the galactic community from a position of weakness became subordinate to stronger powers. We chose a different path. We built strength first, then sought diplomatic contact. This ensures that our relationships with other civilizations are based on mutual respect rather than domination. Admiral Ren leaned forward, his military mind analyzing Chen's words. You speak of mutual respect, Captain, but respect based on fear of military power is not true respect. It is merely deterrence. I disagree, Admiral, Shin replied. True respect comes from recognizing that others possess the capability to defend their interests and the wisdom to choose cooperation over conflict. Humanity could have used our technological advantages to attack Federation territories while you were unprepared. We did not. We could have built our capabilities in secret and then demanded submission. We did not. Instead, we revealed ourselves openly and proposed. Peaceful coexistence, our strength makes cooperation possible precisely because it eliminates the temptation for either side to seek dominance. Chancellor Vidian found himself impressed by the human's reasoning. Chen spoke with the confidence of someone who had carefully considered all possible objections to his position. The humans had not merely built advanced weapons, they had developed a comprehensive diplomatic strategy based on realistic assessments of galactic politics. Captain Qin, the Chancellor said, you mentioned that humanity has been observing the Federation for 60 years. What conclusions have you drawn from your observations? Qin paused as if choosing his words carefully. Chancellor, we have observed both the strengths and weaknesses of Federation civilization. Your greatest strength is your ability to unite diverse species and common purpose. 47 different civilizations working together represent an impressive achievement. However, we have also observed that the Federation maintains this unity through a hierarchical structure in which some species hold more power than others. Client species serve dominant species. New members accept subordinate positions. This creates stability, but it also creates resentment. The accuracy of this assessment made several council members shift uncomfortably. The Federation did indeed operate on hierarchical principles, with founding species holding more authority than newer members. This system had worked for over a millennium, but it was not without tensions. What alternative do you propose? Asked Chancellor Vidian. Humanity proposes a different model, Qin explained. Instead of integration into existing Federation structures, we suggest the creation of new relationship frameworks, bilateral treaties between equals, trade agreements based on mutual benefit rather than tribute, military cooperation based on shared interest rather than obligation. We believe this approach creates stronger and more lasting partnerships because both sides participate willingly rather than through compulsion. Thien Moss, the economic advisor, saw both opportunities and threats in this proposal. Captain, you speak of trade agreements based on mutual benefit. Given your technological advantages, what would the Federation gain from such agreements? It seems that humanity would benefit far more from access to our markets than we would from access to yours. Qin smiled slightly. Advisor Moss, you assume that technological advancement is the only form of value the Federation possesses. Resources that humanity needs. Your member worlds span hundreds of systems with diverse environments and materials. Your species bring different perspectives and capabilities that could complement human abilities. Your centuries of experience and interstellar governance offer lessons we are eager to learn. A true partnership benefits both sides by combining complementary strength. Science Director Callas interrupted. Captain Qin, I must ask about your technological development. How did humanity achieve such rapid advancement? Our model suggests that the progress you describe should have taken at least 5 centuries, not 2. Director Callas, you're correct that our development timeline appears anomalous. Qin acknowledged. The answer lies in 3 factors. First, knowledge that advanced technology existed motivated us to pursue ambitious goals. Second, studying Federation communications gave us insights into what was possible, allowing us to focus research in Productive directions, third, human. Cognitive neurology may process certain types of abstract problems differently than other species. We excel at seeing connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, which accelerates innovation. This last point caused considerable discussion among the council members. The suggestion that human brains might be structured differently from other species raised questions about biological diversity and cognitive capabilities that Federation scientists had not fully explored. Terms of engagement, Chancellor Vidian raised his hand for silence. Captain Chin let us discuss specific terms. What exactly does humanity expect from a mutual recognition treaty? Chin straightened, clearly prepared for this question. First, formal recognition that Earth and its colonies constitute an independent sovereign state with full rights under interstellar law. Second, establishment of embassies and diplomatic channels between our governments. Third, negotiation of borders defining Terran space and Federation space with both sides respecting those boundaries. Fourth, agreements on trade, travel, and cultural exchange to be negotiated separately based on mutual interest. Fifth, provisions for mutual defense in case of external threats to either civilization. The terms were straightforward but revolutionary. No newly contacted species had ever proposed such comprehensive and equal arrangements with the Federation. Several council members began speaking at once, some in support and some in opposition to the proposal. Admiral Wren demanded attention. Captain Yu mentioned provisions for mutual defense. Does this mean humanity expects the Federation to protect human territory? Quite the opposite, Admiral Shin clarified. It means that if external threats emerge that endanger either civilization, we agree to coordinate our defensive efforts. Humanity is fully capable of defending our own territories. However, we recognize that threats may arise that affect both our civilizations. Cooperation in such circumstances benefits everyone. Representative Solaro, when asked, "What external threats are you concerned about?" The Federation has maintained peace throughout this sector for centuries. Chen's expression became serious. Representative Wen, your records may not include some of the observations we have made from our more distant territories. There are civilizations beyond the Federation's current borders that possess capabilities comparable to our own. Some of these civilizations show expansionist tendencies. In coming decades, both humanity and the Federation may face challenges that neither could address alone. It would be wise to establish cooperative frameworks now before clears throat such threats materialize. This revelation sent shock waves through the council chamber. The Federation had assumed it was the dominant power in this region of the galaxy. The suggestion that other advanced civilizations existed beyond their borders raised troubling questions about the limits of Federation knowledge and power. Chancellor Vidian absorbed all this information carefully. He recognized that Captain Chin was not merely negotiating for current circumstances, but positioning humanity for long-term strategic advantage. The humans had thought many moves ahead, anticipating challenges that the Federation had not yet encountered. Members of the council, Vidian said, "I believe we need time to consider all aspects of Captain Chen's proposal. However, I am inclined to recommend that we accept the basic framework of mutual recognition. The alternative appears to be conflict with an opponent whose full capabilities we do not understand, fought over principles that may not serve our actual interests. Admiral Wren stood again, Chancellor. Before any final decisions are made, I request permission to conduct a demonstration. Captain Shin, would your vessel be willing to participate in a controlled tactical exercise against Federation ships, not combat, merely a test of relative capabilities? Such a demonstration would help the Council understand exactly what we face. Chin considered the request for a moment. Admiral, I understand your desire for concrete data, however I must decline such a demonstration. Even in a controlled exercise risks accidents that could harm personnel on both sides. More importantly, it continues an old pattern of measuring civilizations primarily by military strength. We prefer to demonstrate our value through cooperation rather than through displays of weapons. Then how do we verify that your capabilities are as advanced as you claim? Wren challenged. You have already verified our capabilities, Admiral Chen pointed out. Commander Velian, sensor data proves that our power generation, computational systems, and defensive fields exceed Federation standards. We penetrated your communications, encryption, and accessed your military protocols. We generated quantum fields that your science officers confirmed covered an entire star system. We do not need to destroy things to prove we could destroy them if we chose to do so. Logic was irrefutable, though it clearly frustrated the Admiral's military mindset. Chancellor Vidian saw an opportunity to move discussions in a more productive direction. Captain Chin, you have presented compelling arguments for why the Federation should accept your proposed treaty framework. Let me ask a different question. Why should humanity accept it? You possess technological superiority. You could potentially dictate terms rather than negotiate them. Why seek our acceptance rather than simply proceeding with your own plans? Chen's response showed genuine respect for the question. Chancellor, that is perhaps the most important question you have asked. Humanity seeks your acceptance because we understand a fundamental truth about civilization. Power without legitimacy eventually fails. We could intimidate the Federation through displays of military might, but such intimidation creates enemies rather than partners. We could ignore the Federation entirely and expand into unclaimed territory, but isolation limits growth and learning. We believe that a galaxy where multiple strong civilizations cooperate produces better outcomes for everyone than a galaxy dominated by a single power, even if that power is benevolent. This philosophy resonated with many council members. The Federation itself had been founded on principles of cooperation between different species. The idea that humanity shared similar values despite their different approach to establishing their position suggested possibilities for genuine partnership. Economic advisor Thorin returned to practical concerns. Captain, assuming the Council accepts your proposal, what immediate steps would you recommend for beginning this partnership? I would suggest 3 initial steps, Chin replied. First, exchange of ambassadors and establishment of embassies on both Earth and Federation Prime. Second, identification of specific areas where cooperation could provide immediate mutual benefits, perhaps joint scientific research or coordination on space traffic management. Third, begin negotiating detailed border agreements to prevent misunderstandings about territorial claims. These steps establish basic frameworks while allowing both sides to build trust. Through experience, the discussion continued for several more hours as council members raised questions and concerns. Chen answered each inquiry with patience and clarity, demonstrating both knowledge of Federation politics and commitment to finding workable solutions. As the session progressed, resistance to the human proposals gradually weakened as representatives recognized the logic of accepting reality rather than clinging to outdated assumptions. New beginnings. Finally, Chancellor Vidian called for a preliminary vote. Members of the Council, I propose that we accept in principle the framework of mutual recognition that Captain Qin has described. This acceptance would authorize detailed negotiations to establish specific treaty terms. All those in favor, the vote was not unanimous, but a clear majority of council members raised their hands or tentacles or manipulators in support. The Federation would recognize humanity as an independent power with equal standing. A new chapter in galactic history was beginning. Captain Qin, Chancellor Vidian announced formally, the Galactic Federation Council accepts your proposal for mutual recognition and equal diplomatic relations. We will begin formal treaty negotiations within 30 standard days. Until then, we propose an interim understanding in which both sides refrain from military buildups or territorial expansion in areas that might become disputed. The Terran government accepts these terms. Chancellor Qin replied with evident satisfaction. I look forward to working with Federation representatives to build a lasting partnership. Humanity has much to learn from your civilization's experience, and we hope we can contribute our own perspectives and capabilities to the betterment of all species. As the transmission ended, the council chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives celebrated the peaceful resolution of a potentially dangerous crisis. Others worried about the precedent being set for future first contact situations. All recognized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Commander Velian, watching the proceedings from his ship in human territory, felt a sense of relief. His chance encounter with the valiant Guardian had triggered a diplomatic revolution. The Federation would never again assume that newly discovered species were necessarily inferior. Every first contact would now be approached with greater caution and respect. On the bridge of the valiant Guardian, Captain Qin allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Years of careful planning had led to this moment. Humanity had established itself not through conquest, but through demonstrated capability and diplomatic skill. The treaty negotiations ahead would be complex, but the fundamental relationship had been defined. Humans and Federation species would interact as equals, building partnerships based on mutual respect and shared interest. As both civilizations began preparing for their new relationship, a question hung in the minds of many observers. If humanity had advanced so rapidly in just 2 centuries, what would they become in another 2 centuries? What role would they play in galactic affairs as their capabilities continued to grow? Only time would answer these questions, for now the galaxy had to adjust to a new reality. Humanity had arrived not as students seeking wisdom from older civilizations, but as partners ready to contribute their own unique strengths to the complex web of galactic civilization. The council had gone silent when faced with human power. But now new conversations could begin. The future remained unwritten, full of possibilities that neither humanity nor the Federation could fully predict. Together, they would navigate the challenges ahead and discover what a true partnership between equals could achieve. The age of human isolation had ended. The age of human partnership was just beginning. End of story.